Charlotte has never met a boarding pass she didn't like. Her passion for travel has been lifelong and seems to be stronger now than ever. She returned recently from a 9-day trip to France just 3 days ago. Today, she would like to pass on some information about traveling in France and also show you a few of the photos that she took during her adventure. Please help me welcome the jet-lagged Charlotte as she gives her speech, France, a Trip to Normandy.
France, what an incredible country. The food, the countryside, the cities, it was awesome. Plus, last week it probably had the most perfect weather ever. I spent a little bit of time at Paris and then traveled to the region of Normandy. And Normandy lies just west of Paris in the Loire River Valley between Paris and the English Channel. Today I'd like to give you a little taste of that trip. But first I'd like to give you some information that might be helpful. Due to the recent terrorist problems, some of the activity that's gone on in France, people are afraid to go there. I have to tell you, I felt very at ease and very safe. There wasn't a huge presence of security people, but the security was very good. And second, a reason to travel to France and Europe right now, the dollar is very strong against the euro. It's a good bargain, a good value. So with those 2 points of information, I'd now like to show you some slides that I took while in Paris and Normandy to give you a little taste of the trip I just had. And speaking of taste, I bought a box of Normandy caramels, a tin of caramels. And this is the candy of Normandy. I'd like to pass it around. Please help yourself.
Thank you.
Paris. Paris is the city of lights, the Enlightenment, the elucidation of the Renaissance. This was an important city. These are views from the Mount Parnassus Tower. Our guide recommended, since our time was so short on this trip, that we avoid the Eiffel Tower view and we go to Mount Parnassus Tower. This view was incredible. We could see the whole city and we got to see the Eiffel Tower from our viewpoint. 59 stories high, incredible observation deck. As you can see, the weather was lovely, and this sky was about the same that we had through the whole trip. It was just an incredible week for weather last week in France. In Paris, we made the usual stops: Eiffel Tower, Arc de Triomphe. You know, the Arc de Triomphe was commissioned by Napoleon, but he never saw it completed. And of course, his defeat, Waterloo, is not depicted on the Arc. My one stop in the short time I had in Paris was Notre Dame. This was the top of my list. I stood in quite a long line, walked my way to the front of this cathedral. This cathedral was built in the 12th century, but it wasn't completed till the very beginning of the 14th century. Once inside, they asked that everyone be silent. Can you imagine hundreds, if not thousands of people in this large cathedral walking on the carpeted runners between all of the wonderful statues, the icons, the stained glass windows, in silence? It was incredible. If you wanted to pray, meditate, contemplate, they allowed you to sit in the sanctuary in front of the altar. This was the highlight of my time in Paris during this short 9-day trip to France. Notre Dame, I'd do it again. The river Seine is very important to the Parisians. There's a right bank culture, a left bank culture. Most of the neighborhoods are referenced to the Seine River. Lots of boat tours, lots of bridges, beautiful place. Also, there's many gardens with beautiful statuary, trees, flowers. I spent a lot of time in the Luxembourg Gardens to rest because it was near my hotel. Incredible. The big museum, the Louvre, right on the edge of the Tuileries Gardens, didn't have time to go in. The line was very long and you needed a time ticket in the summer. But I did go by to take a picture of that I.M. glass pyramid. There's a lot of reflecting pools around it, and it's just a very lovely sight. Trip validation, there I am, in front of the Eiffel Tower. And my new trip friend, Nancy from Long Island. After a bit of time in Paris, we headed south and west into Normandy. Our first stop was the Cathedral of Chartres. And I've misspelled the name, there should be another R in that Chartres. I was so excited to go to the cathedral because I knew a lot about the labyrinth. There's 277 stones in the labyrinth. You walk it in contemplation. It simulates the journey of life. And our guide also said 277 represents the human days of gestation, which I had not ever seen in print before. But as we walked into the cathedral there at Chartres, there were chairs all over my labyrinth. I noticed a bunch of sound equipment, some amplifiers. They do a lot of concerts in the cathedrals in the summer because the acoustics are just incredible. The gardens around the cathedral were magnificent. The colors, they were pristine. They were very well kept. And inside, the statuary was magnificent. They do have one relic in the cathedral at Chartres, and that's a piece of the veil of the Virgin. It was hard to get close to it. It was covered with glass, and my photos did not come out very adequate for that picture. After our time at the cathedral, we went to a winery. We were in the Loire Valley. Any valley that you're in Paris has a winery, one or two at least. So we went to the winery, and it's in a cave. This cave was made out of limestone as the blocks were removed to build the cathedrals and the city walls. They showed us the old wine casks and the old way that they made wine, but also they took us to their modern bottling plant. We had a wonderful wine tasting, but being a teetotaler, I was satisfied with just the apple juice that they served. The next day, we stopped off at the Chateau de Chambord, and this is the largest chateau in Normandy. It has 440 rooms. It was built by the King, Francis I, and he built many of the chateaus, spent a few nights in a few of them, but he was just into the architecture and the building of the chateaus of the region of Normandy. Like I said, it has 440 rooms. It's the largest residence in Normandy, 270 some odd fireplaces, and 84 staircases. And of course, at all of the chateaus, they had lovely gardens, both flowers and vegetables. The next day, we were off to the Chateau de Chenessau. Now, this chateau stretches across the Cher River. And originally, the part that crosses the river there was a boat dock. But as time went on, it was incorporated and became the long gallery of this chateau. This is often called the Chateau of the Ladies, because it was originally built for Diane, who was the mistress of Francois I. But then Catherine de' Medici, who came from Italy and married Henry II, used that as her permanent residence after King Henry II passed away. During World War II, this chateau was used as a hospital, and they have a reenactment there that you can see how they set up the hospital beds for the wounded soldiers. Next, we went to Chateau d'Amboise. This was where Francois I actually lived. It's called the Royal Chateau. It was wonderful. Big rooms. He had all of his meeting rooms. They had some of the bedrooms done up. Lots of kitchens. And it sits right on the bank of the river there. Now, the sister to Francois I spent a lot of time in Italy. And she met this really wonderful guy named Leonardo da Vinci. So when she came back to France, she talked to her brother, told him about Da Vinci. They convinced him to move to Amboise, and he spent the last 3 years of his life there and is buried in the Chateau d'Amboise Chapel. Mont Saint-Michel, this is an abbey built originally in the 700s. It still stands today, and it's an active abbey. It was very crowded that day, and I didn't go to the restaurant, but I picked up a baguette, climbed to the top, and you could see the view from the top. It was wonderful as I ate my lunch. After we visited the chateaus, we went to the beaches of Normandy. This is Point Hawk, which is the cliffs that were repelled by the American soldiers to push the Germans back from the occupation of France. It's depicted in that old movie called The Longest Day. And we got to walk around the area, see some of the bomb craters and the revetments. Omaha Beach, quite a moving place. The French gave 175 acres to the American people, and that is considered American soil. We have more than 900 soldiers buried there. After our time at the beaches, the last day as we drove back to Paris, we stopped in Monet's Gardens. Monet's Gardens is in Giverny. Monet was a great Impressionist painter, and he believed that light was the key to painting. Many of the Impressionists would paint the same scene, for example, a haystack, but they would do it at different times of the day from the same point, because light made a different impression. Light would elucidate for them. The gardens were a riot of color, and as I stood on one bridge in the water lily garden, you can see the photo towards the light, and I turned around and the photo that I took with the light at my back. France, what a great trip. Normandy, it was wonderful. The weather was good, and we had a great guide and a great group. I would highly recommend a trip to France now. I did feel safe. I know that there were some incidents while I was there. As a matter of fact, there was a priest that was killed less than 1 hour from our hotel in Tours while we were on tour. France, take a chance. It's a wonderful trip.